Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're demystifying the critical chain of command on a construction site. We're going to break down exactly how massive, complex projects actually get built, and honestly, more importantly, who ensures they don't completely fall apart. So, if you've ever stared up at a soaring skyscraper or driven through a sprawling infrastructure project and thought, how in the world do thousands of moving parts stay synchronized? Well, you are definitely in the right place. It really is a high-stakes question, right? Who actually keeps a multi-million-dollar construction site from just descending into absolute chaos? Because behind every successful build, behind the fancy blueprints and the massive heavy machinery, there are two distinct and honestly frequently confused roles that act as the ultimate safety net. These two professionals are literally the guardians of the project, turning those lofty architectural dreams into concrete reality. Okay, let's dive right into this by grounding ourselves with the official definition of site supervision, straight from CIDB Malaysia. They define it as the process of monitoring, coordinating, inspecting, and controlling construction activities. And the ultimate goal here? To make absolutely sure that every single swing of a hammer and every pour of concrete complies with the drawings and safety regulations. It's not just about checking boxes, it's this massive undertaking of continuous boots-on-the-ground vigilance. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the core of site supervision. Second, the role of the site supervisor. Third, the role of the assistant engineer. And finally, number 4, the head-to-head comparison.
All right, part 1, the core of site supervision.
When you really strip it down, everything in site supervision ultimately boils down to 3 massive goals set right at the planning stage. We're talking cost, time, and quality. The Project Management Institute actually notes that project monitoring and controlling is all about tracking and reviewing performance to hit these exact objectives. Think of it like a giant triangle. If you can ensure the work complies with specifications, sticks to the schedule, and materials actually meet quality standards, you've nailed all 3 pillars. But miss even one, and that whole triangle just collapses.
Now, what happens when supervision actually fails? Well, the consequences are pretty disastrous. Without our key roles keeping a watchful eye, projects can quickly derail into incredibly costly rework, severe accidents, and fundamental quality failures. And that just cascades, right? It leads to nasty contractual claims, massive project delays, and crippling cost overruns. So it's not just about a project taking a little longer to finish, it's about structural integrity and human safety literally being compromised.
Which brings us to part 2, the role of the site supervisor.
CIDB defines this role simply, but man, is it powerful. They say it's any employee who has the acceptable level of skills, knowledge, and experience assigned to a construction site to supervise construction work. But you kind of have to read between the lines here. This role demands an incredibly resourceful individual. They are the absolute vital operational link between the craft workers swinging the hammers out in the sun and the management team sitting back in the site office.
Just think about the sheer breadth of tasks they manage day to day. It's a vast array. They aren't just standing around watching people work. Not at all. They're handling time management to ensure the whole project sticks to the schedule. They're enforcing strict quality control and making sure every single worker has their proper personal protective equipment on. Plus, they're running daily morning briefings on safety measures and constantly monitoring equipment to prevent material wastage. It's a huge balancing act. Operationally speaking, their day is just nonstop, relentless problem solving. First up, they coordinate resources, carefully keeping tabs on labor, machinery, and materials. Then they are physically out there inspecting the construction work. We're talking about checking reinforcement installations in the blazing heat, monitoring formwork, concrete pouring, earthworks, the whole shebang. And through all of this, they're the ones ensuring strict compliance with major safety regulations, like the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1994. And of course, they have to actually prove that all of this happened. A site supervisor's documentation responsibilities basically track the literal daily heartbeat of the site. They're maintaining the site diaries, meticulously logging weather records, which, by the way, can completely make or break a concrete pour, and they track daily manpower and material logs. They're documenting the raw physical reality of exactly what happened on the dirt that day. Let's pivot to part 3, the role of the assistant engineer. So, while the site supervisor is directly managing the craft workers, the assistant engineer is playing a different game. They're supporting the resident engineer or the project engineer. Working under limited supervision, they provide simple project management, design, and coordination services. Unlike our operational supervisor, the assistant engineer relies really heavily on engineering theories.
They spend their time checking complex measurements and making absolutely sure the underlying science of the build is totally sound.
And to give you a sense of what that technical support actually looks like in practice, their duties dive really deep into design and documentation. They are reviewing designs and specs submitted by vendors, drafting field design changes on the fly, and preparing those vital project cost estimates. They might also be heavily involved in quality control and assurance programs, providing that crucial technical backbone required to make the physical construction even possible.
Because their daily focus is so different, their paperwork is a whole different beast too. Just contrast the assistant engineer's documentation with the supervisor's daily diary. The assistant engineer is responsible for preparing comprehensive engineering reports, generating technical progress reports, and managing finances in complex databases. So rather than just tracking daily manpower, they are essentially documenting the structural and financial health of the entire project.
All right, bringing it all together with part 4, the head-to-head comparison.
When we finally put these two roles side by side, it's so cool to see how they build this complete, impenetrable safety net for the project. On one hand, the site supervisor is out there executing daily supervision and physical safety inspections, making sure the scaffolding is secure and the hard hats are strapped on. But on the other hand, the assistant engineer is executing technical supervision and technical inspections. They're checking the math, reviewing contractor submissions, and ensuring those incredibly complex engineering standards are actually being met.
So the real crucial takeaway here is this division of focus. The site supervisor primarily monitors the people doing the work and reports on the daily physical progress. They are managing the human element. The assistant engineer, however, verifies the engineering compliance and reports on the technical progress. They manage the math and the science behind the work. Basically, one ensures the work gets done safely today, while the other ensures the work will stand strong for decades to come. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought to ponder. We've seen how distinct their daily lives, their paperwork, and their overall focuses are. But if a successful multi-million-dollar build absolutely requires both flawless daily execution and rigorous technical compliance, could a project ever survive if even one of these halves fails? The reality is, no way. These roles are fundamentally two sides of the exact same coin. You simply cannot build the future without both of them working in perfect harmony. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep looking closely at the structures around you.